Welcome back to the Kool, the Kareem Matthews podcast. I'm your host, Kareem Matthews, and I'm excited this week, man, to have on comedian, actor, entrepreneur, producer, dad, and I best like to call him my friend, Mr. Maz Jobrani.
Hey Kareem, that's one of the best intros I've ever had, man. I'm happy to be your friend. You're my friend too.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I was thinking about it. I do that whenever I have someone on, and I think we go back to like the late '90s, huh? Dublin's, I would say.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
around there. I started stand up in 98, and
Oh,
so I would say probably like 99 or so. Whenever Dublin started, I think I met you and Darren Carter and
right,
all the guys back
right.
then. Ahmed, and we were all hanging out together, man.
Yo, those were great times. I had a man on, and he talks about how those were like such innocent times for a lot of us as comics. You know, I didn't. That's crazy. You said you started in '98, so you were literally just like a year in, because Dublin's I think was '99. So you were
Yeah, I
that
think
new.
I think yeah, I was at that point where I was taking any gig I could get, and so I would pop up everywhere. So I was popping up at the Comedy Store, like doing bringer rooms there. There's a place called Maskers Cabaret or something on Third Street. It was an
Mm,
Italian restaurant. I was all over the place. And then Dublin's, yeah, I think right around 99, whenever it first started, I was one of the early ones on there because I was friends with Ahmed, and he was like, yeah, come do the show on a Tuesday night. So I was like, sure. And then my routine used to be I was not a regular at the Laugh Factory yet. So
mm.
I would or I might have, or either I wasn't, or I had just like showcased for him or something. So what I would do is I go to Dublin's and I do my set that they gave me whenever it was, or I just hang out and watch if I wasn't performing, and then I would walk across the street to the Laugh Factory because I would have. By the way, the parking I would have parked on Fairfax where you were able to park
Oh, at the
without.
meters.
Yeah, because the meters were crazy. So if you went down east of Fairfax on Sunset, you could park and leave your car there. So then I would go do the Douglas thing. Then I'd walk over to Laugh Factory just to show my face, be like, "Hi, Jamie, how are you?" He didn't really know me well yet, and I was like, "Nice
Mm.
to see you again," because I might have showcased for him at that point. And then I would walk to the Comedy Store to do usually a spot because I was already a regular at the Comedy Store, and that was my routine, my little triangle of gigs that I would do on a Tuesday.
Hilarious, because that area was like a comedy cradle. You know what I mean? That Sunset Melrose area was like a great, like you said, you could hit 3 or 4 spots in walking distance in one night. And I mean, that's pretty rare in LA. You know what I mean? So that is a nice little comedy area right there.
Yeah, I think LA, the difference between LA comics, New York comics have so many clubs. And the time I've spent in New York, I know I've been like, I'll do 3 or 4 shows in one night. I'll be on a train going one way, and then I run into another comedian who's going another place. And
Mm.
it's just, you can do a ton of gigs in New York. But LA, you're right, it's all separated. However, if you hustle a little bit and get in with 3 or 4 places, you could in a night do 5 spots or whatever it is. Just you got to hop around a little bit.
Right. And some of these clubs have multiple rooms. Actually, most of them have multiple rooms. So you could get multiple spots that way too.
Yeah, that's definitely I think I'm pretty sure in my 20 plus years of the Comedy Store that I must have done a trifecta at one point when you do the main room,
Mm.
the original room, and the belly room. I'm pretty sure
Mm.
I've done that.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that's you can't beat that. That's all in one location, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So you started in LA?
Yeah, I started out. So I grew up in Northern California. I was born in Iran, grew up in Northern California. Always wanted to get into comedy. I was a big fan of Eddie Murphy's and wanted to be a comedian, but my parents, being immigrant Iranian parents, didn't want that. So they kind of pushed me in another direction. So I went to college, studied political science, and then I ended up going to grad school, and I dropped out of grad school. And it wasn't until I was in my mid 20s, I was actually working in an advertising agency on Wilshire Boulevard,
Mm.
and I was talking to this guy who worked there who was a little older than me. He was in his 60s, and he was talking about, like, he'd seen me do a play, and he was like, "Hey, you're pretty funny. Have you ever thought about doing this?" And I said, "Listen, man, I've wanted to do it. My parents keep talking me against it, but I'm gonna save up some money And I said, when I'm in my 30s, I'm going to go for it. And he was like, look, man, I'm in my 60s right now, and there's some things I wanted to do, and I never got around to doing it. So he goes, if you really want to do it now. So I
Mm,
was 26 years old, and that's it. I
mm,
enrolled in some improv classes, and then I ended up in Judy Carter's comedy classes, and that's how
mm.
I started.
Oh, really? Wow,
Yeah,
that
man.
man, that dude was put in your life for a reason. You know what I mean? That's like
Absolutely.
that's like great advice. You
Yeah,
know what
his
I
name
mean?
is Joe. His name was Joe Rhine, and I talk about him all the time. I think I dedicated my book to him as well.
Oh
He's passed
wow.
away since, but yeah, he was an angel.
Yeah, no, man. Yeah, when you get advice like that from someone, it's priceless.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've read a couple of Judy Carter's books too. She her techniques. I like her techniques. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some people don't like to take the classes, but I said classes were just like doing open mics, but with feedback. Because when you go to an open mic, nobody gives you feedback unless you're there with your buddy, and then you guys can try and, tag the jokes or whatever it is. But when you're at the class, you do your set in front of the teacher as well as a few people, and you get feedback. My teacher was actually Diane Nichols, who's a very funny
Mm-hmm.
lady, but
Mm-hmm.
she taught for Judy at the time. And again, talk about kind of the stars aligning. I thought about this because I was taking sketch comedy classes at the Acme Theater on La Brea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I was taking improv classes through the Acme on La Brea, and their classes were actually in the Valley, but still, it was the Acme improv classes. And while I was there, Judy Carter happened to also be taking improv classes. So we got to talking, and I told her, yeah, I like stand up. She goes, oh, I teach a stand up class. So in a way, she kind of came into my life accidentally,
Mm-hmm.
and then I took her class. I read the book, and Diane was great. And the technique is just like it's just breaking down how to write something, and it's all about having an opinion. Really, you got to have an opinion. And so she made it simple. She was like, every comedian is either saying, I love it when fill in the blanks. I hate it when fill in the blanks. It's crazy when fill in the blanks. And so you
Mm-hmm.
just fill in those blanks and you'd be like, okay, I got an opinion on things. And we went from there. But the main thing I learned from her class was get on stage as much as you can and write as much as you can. And that's the formula right there.
Interesting. Yeah. See, I, I have mixed feelings about classes, but the thing I do like about them is that you learn the technique. You know what I mean? But I think like your style has to come from you doing it. Like I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. The reason I like classes was because I think deadlines help me. And so when I'm in a class, I took
Mm,
screenwriting class, I took this class, I took that class. When I'm in a class and they go, you need to turn in 5 pages by X, Y, Z, or you need to have 2 minutes to stand up by Monday, it gives me some deadline. Whereas
right.
if I'm just kind of floundering in the universe, I could,
Find
procrastinate
it
till I'm blue in the
forever.
face. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, no, I get it. And that's part of just like the discipline part. Cause like a lot of these things that you say, getting on stage a lot, writing a lot, like those are things that you do learn by trial and error. And it is probably best if someone would have just told you that from jump. You know what I mean?
Mm
Like
hmm.
when
Mm
you
hmm.
first start, because those are things I had to learn over time. But I think also what I liked about not taking a class was learning over time my own style. Like I was just able to figure out what was comfortable for me, you know what I mean? And not.
Well, that's going to happen regardless of the class is just there to, like I said, to kind of give you deadlines and give you some guidance as to how to write. Just to
Mm-hmm.
just here's fill in these blanks and you'll learn to write. But your style is ultimately your point of view. And so even in that class we had, we were all amateurs, but in a class of 15 people there was 15 different styles already. And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously your style evolves over time, and the only way to learn is to get on stage. I always tell people, like young people, I go, you got to get on stage 5 to 10 times a week for about 5 to 10 years before you'll start feeling comfortable in your skin as your own comedian and your own voice.
No, absolutely. And I feel like it takes that long to get good, but it takes one time to realize if this is something you want to do or not. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I tell people it's like riding a roller coaster. You know, you don't have to ride a roller coaster 10 times to know if you like roller coasters. And that's the
right.
same thing I feel about stand-up, because like there's a certain energy that comes with with the act that you feel before, during, and after. You know what I mean? So I feel like right away when you get on stage, you have an opinion about that feeling. Either you're gonna
Hmm.
love it or you're gonna say, nah, this is not for me. No matter how
Right.
good you are when your performance, just that euphoria you get from being up there, you know instantly if that's for you or not. You know what I mean? 'Cause I know for
Yeah.
me, initially I knew, yes, I want this. I want this feeling. Like it was a euphoric feeling, you know?
Yeah, and I think that people find that in different um, fields in their lives, and so
Mm,
it's about finding that. If you can find that in
mm,
your life, whether it's being a doctor or being a artist or being a teacher, whatever it is, there's something that somebody wakes up and goes, I look forward to doing that. You know, being a
mm,
computer programmer, they love doing it. I used to say like, you want, I mean, I've changed my mind a little bit on this, but I used to say like, I want to be able to do something that I fall asleep thinking about it and I wake up excited to get back into it.
mm.
Now, the truth is that can lead you to a certain place of like, you know, insanity because you're not getting some sleep. But the gist of the idea is finding what you love. And you're right, some people are funny off stage and they go, oh, I'm really funny, and then they try it and they go up on stage and they just crumble, and you go, oh wow, you just aren't made to be in front of people like that. And then some
Right,
people aren't as funny off stage, but they like being on that stage. And if that's what it is, because if it's at the point where you love it so much that the politics don't discourage you from staying in, then you found the right thing.
right. No, and it's funny because, like you said, something you want to think about when you go to sleep and wake up thinking about. I always, and you said you changed your mind about that. I have the same kind of statement, and I've changed my mind about it too. But I'm like, something that you would do for free.
Yes.
But now,
Yes.
you know, now not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, you
No,
know,
but
like,
even then, it's like it's something that you look forward to. I'll put it this way: like I've never. Whereas when I had the office job, there were some mornings when I'd be driving to work and just kind of like rolling my eyes and going, "Oh God, I got to go do this." Now, whenever I drive to a show, I'm excited. I'm alive. I'm happy to be doing it. I've never been driving or flying to a gig and going, oh God, I got to go on stage and tell jokes. And even if I've been upset about leaving home for whatever reason, oh God, I'm so tired. I've been working every weekend for the past 6 months, whatever it is. Even then, when I get on stage, he's like, hey, what's up, guys? You know, it's
everything
great.
disappears. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
every no, and isn't that great though?
yeah, yeah,
Like you
yeah,
said, I mean, you got to find a place where that happens. When you can just zone out from everything that's going on in your world for that amount of time that you're up there. You know what I mean? Like that's, man,
yeah,
that's an unbelievable feeling. You know, it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so you said you started in like the late 90s. I mean, I guess I met you at Dublin's in like the early 90s, 2000s. So that means like you had success pretty early because wasn't Friday After Next 2001?
Yeah, so I had I was doing plays and musicals since I was 12 years old in junior high school, and I loved being in plays. So I did plays in junior high, seventh and eighth grade. Then I went to high school where we had a great acting program, did a bunch of plays. So I was comfortable being on stage. And I had done a couple of open mics here and there, done some other theater classes. And every time I did theater, my teachers would say, oh, you've got what it takes to make it in this business.
Mm.
And so, because I just was alive, I was like a ham on stage. I like being on stage. Um, and so when I first took that Judy Carter comedy class, you know, there were some people who were still learning how to stand on a stage and they're, you know, hunched over. I already knew, like, as a performer, you got to be open to the audience, and I kind of knew the positioning. I also feel like I had been such a fan of comedy since I first discovered Eddie Murphy at the age of 8 or 9, that when we went to Judy Carter's class and they said, you're going to write over 6 weeks, you're going to write 5 minutes worth of material and then perform it at a showcase with a bunch of other comedians, a bunch of other students, I should say. By the time the 6 weeks finished, I didn't have 5 minutes. I had 10 minutes of material. Like I was ready to go. Like I was writing, I was talking. I was, oh my God. I was like this. I was alive. So because of that, I really I started sprinting. Like I hit the ground running. Like I said, I would get into one bringer show, and then the other thing I had going, because I learned this from watching Tommy Davidson at a little. There was a little the Screen Actors Guild at that time. I think it was AFTRA still. They they had a little evening of like a little seminar or whatever, where they had professionals in the comedy world talking.
Mm.
And Tommy Davidson was one of them. And he said, he goes, when I first came to LA from DC, he goes, I was killing it, going to clubs, killing it. But he goes, one thing I did that really helped me was when I would do well, as people would leave, I would say, let me get your address. I'll let you know when I'm going to be up again. So
Mm.
he was creating a fan base, a mailing list. And he said that really helped him as well, because then when he would do shows, people would show up. So similarly, I started getting people's addresses back then. This is before you really got people's emails, or there was no social media. So I would get people's addresses, and I worked at the ad agency, so I had access to some graphic stuff. So I had like these little postcards made, and I would get like, I don't know, several hundred of them made, and I would do every month. I would put stamps on all of them, and then I would print out my upcoming shows that month that required an audience. Because when you do a bringer, as you know, you got to bring people. So
Right.
I'd mail it out to people. Say, I'm going to be at Maskers Cabaret Thursday the 5th. I'm going to be in the Belly Room at the Comedy Store on the 12th, whatever it was. And so when I would do these shows, not only was because you know how it is when you do an open mic or a bringer show, everyone's horrible. And then they have like two headliners at the end that are great. Those are professionals. So I was one of the horribles. We were all new. But out of the horribles, I was one of the better horribles. So I wasn't like a disaster. And meanwhile, I also had cultivated this I should say, friends base, whether it was from friends from work or friends from other stuff, where I was able to bring people. So I would do a show, and not only was I one of the funnier amateur comics, but I was also the one who brought 5 people. So of course, people running rooms would see that, and they'd be like, oh, come to our room, and come to our room. So that helped me kind of grow in this world of comedy. And at the same time, I was auditioning, because again, acting wise, I was I'd been acting since I was 12. Even though at this time I'm 26 or 27 years old, I know how to act. I know what to do. So my first, before I even met my agent, my younger brother had a friend. He goes, hey, my friend's an agent. Do you want me to introduce you? I said, sure. So he puts me in touch, and that was Ray Mohit. And Ray was like, hey, send me your headshots. I'll send you out, and then we can meet next week. Well, before we even met, he'd sent out my headshots. I got 2 auditions for guest stars. One was for Walker, Texas Ranger, which was the Chuck Norris TV show. The other one was Chicago Hope, which was like the ER for CBS. And I went out on the auditions, and I booked both, because again, I had the talent. I'd been acting my whole life, so I booked both of them. And ultimately, I was only able to do one, so I did the Chicago Hope. But the point is, I was like, when I first started, it was almost like I'd been training in the gym my whole life, right? So when I first started, I was like ready to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why things were starting to land. And early on, I got Chicago Hope. I got Malcolm in the Middle. I got NYPD Blue. I got ER. These were all guest stars. And I still had my day job. And then the day job folded, because the company folded. So they had to let me go. And then I got a job as a receptionist at some other, marketing company. And that's when I got the audition for Friday After Next. And again, being someone who'd been doing this my whole life, when I went in for the Friday audition, I was like, okay, I'll wear like some sweatsuits. I kind of I knew the character a little bit. Right. So went in and I got it. And it's funny, actually, be quite honest with you, when I was in the room auditioning, or at some point I remember in the production office, Sacha Baron Cohen was not known yet in America. So they had Ali G's name, the character he does, Ali G, they had his name up as possibly being Moley. I think they had him in mind. And but for whatever reason, maybe he didn't want to do it or whatever, or he wasn't well known enough yet to actually just say, I want to do it or not. So whatever it was, I got the part. And funny enough, I went out there. We filmed it in Long Beach for 2 weeks. Cat Williams, me, and Terry Crews were the new people on that. And when the 2 weeks were done, where I felt like a star, getting paid a lot, getting lunch, having your own trailer, all that stuff. After those 2 weeks, I had no job again. So I went back to being a receptionist at the marketing company. So I was just sitting there answering phones again. I mean, that's
And
just
they're
how
like,
it
you
was.
guys don't know me.
Exactly. Nobody knew me, man.
But I know Ray was loving you after that, though. You know what I mean?
Well,
I haven't even met this guy, and he's booked two things already.
yeah, Ray ended up being like a younger brother because he was my brother's friend and he became my friend, and then we just became partners in producing stuff. Like we did Jimmy Vestwood, we had you on there, and Ray is still my partner. So he was my agent back then, and then he became my manager, and he's basically my guy. Like we're really close, and it's been a great friendship and relationship all these years.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I never knew how you guys met, but you had that kind of bond. Like you could tell that you guys were more than just, you know what I mean, client agent or client manager. Like you could tell that there was a closeness to that. And now I can see how that was built. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool, man. It's a lot of people don't have someone like that in this business. You know, in this business, that's golden to have someone on your side like that you can truly trust.
It's hard, dude, because it's like dating. I've had 4 or 5 different agents, and they're all nice, but for whatever reason, it felt like some of them just it didn't click the way you wanted it to, or one department clicked, another department didn't, and yada yada. So it's really hard to find a team of people who are on board with you. They get you. They If you go to them with an idea, they go, okay, let me try and make this happen. They come to you with ideas. I always credit Ray with my book. I wasn't going to write a book, but Ray was like, dude, you should write a book. And I was like, I don't have a book. He's like, all the comedians are doing books. You got a fan base. Let's just figure out a book. So I figured out
Mm.
the book. And then that book led to me doing some press. And then doing the press led to me being, somebody heard who was somehow affiliated with the Kennedy Center. And then that led me to being able to perform at the Kennedy Center. And then that led to my Netflix special being filmed at the Kennedy Center. So
Mm.
all of that can go all the way back to Ray saying, "Write a book." So
Right.
yeah, he's my he's the yin to my yang.
Nah, that's cool. And it seems like you've had some super karma in your career. Like it seems like a lot of things have lined up. You know what I mean? But I think that comes from hard work though. Like that's what I always say. Like luck, that's what luck is. You know, when you work hard, like those opportunities are gonna appear. Like if you're just sitting at home, stuff like that can't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't sit on your ass and think, "Oh, I'll be discovered because I'm so talented." There's so many undiscovered talented people out there. It's like it's sad. I mean, so as you said, it's like, look, all my ideas aren't going to be great, but I'm just throwing stuff against the wall all the time. And I remember a friend of mine who's a doctor. He said that when he was in medical school, this world-renowned doctor came to give a lecture at their medical school, and he told the students, he said, "Guys, I'm the luckiest person in the world." And he goes, "But I've realized that the harder I work, the luckier I get."
Mm.
And there's something to that,
Mm.
as you said, look, these dots aren't going to be connected if I'm sitting at home waiting for someone to connect them. But there are so many dots that get connected just from being out there. You got to be out there. People got to know who you are. You're a brand. People got to know, so that the more people know about you, the more people go, "Oh, you know what? You know who'd be good for that? Maz. Get Maz to do that." Again, and you got to create your own. Like you can't wait for them to say who'd be good for that. You got to be like, you know what I'd like to play? I'd like to play a version of James Bond. So I'm going to go ahead and write that movie. So it can be tiring at times, but it can also be very exciting. Every time I come up with a new idea that I like, that's exciting, I get so excited. I'm like, oh my god, here's the TV show, and I start getting into it. And I'm like, this is great, And then we go through the process, and the goal, hopefully, one day is to end up with my own show, but it hasn't happened yet. I've gotten close, but it hasn't happened.
No, and you just led me into like a couple things that I wanted to bring up. Like the creating thing, like you did Jimmy Vespa, you know what I mean? Like that was I've had a few. It seems like everyone actually I've had on has had that kind of like I just got to do it myself attitude, and I guess that's what draws me to you guys. It's like I love that, and I feel like I need more of that. You know what I mean? But when I see you guys, it's like super motivational. Like you just basically put that movie together yourself.
Yeah, it's like I was talking to this other guy, Ali Farnakian, who's very funny actor and improv person, who was early in the pandemic. He was doing some sort of like podcast or something, and we were talking. I was telling him all these stories, and at the end, he goes, your stories could be a movie. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, this and that. And he goes, listen, he goes, just get some note cards and write just the name. You have to write the movie. Just write the name of each scene. And you'll realize like a movie only has like, I don't know, 25 scenes, 30 scenes, whatever it is. So if you just get the note cards and you go like, Kareem at the 7-Eleven, Kareem at the comedy club, Kareem meets the girl, whatever it is. You got those ideas in your head. Now you got down to 25 cards. Well, then you just take a card at a time and you start writing the scenes, and you have fun with it. And then you also got to give yourself permission to write a shitty first draft. That's a very important thing. Just write. Because a lot of times people get caught up on like, I don't know if that's how I would say it. Let me go back. Okay, nah, that's not. And they keep going back and back and back. Never gets done. Finish it. Get your 50 pages out, your 60 pages, whatever it is. Then go back and be like, now I got to spend some more time. Screenwriting class I took years ago, they were like, you got to spend 2, 3, 4 hours at a time focused on your writing, turn off your phone, just get into it, get into the zone. It's like stand-up comedy. When you're in the zone, you're on stage, you're alive, you're talking to the crowd, you're feeling it. Similarly to writing. So, by the way, writing it became, once that was done, that was like the easy part, because then you got to go out and get the money, you got to get the editor. There's a lot of other stuff involved, but it's exciting and you're doing something, and you feel good, and you tell people, hey, I'm working on a movie or whatever it is. And to finally have that come to fruition was like, oh my God. And I called all my friends. I was like, come play for a day. And as you know, we had no budget. I'm like, you can't say anything, fortunately, because, the union is going to make me pay you. I don't have the money, man. So that was funny as well.
And that's another cool thing about you, Maz, is that you look out for people. You know what I mean? Like you can be at any club in the country and I can hit you up and there's a 99.9% chance you're gonna be like, come down. You know what I mean? And just like how we were saying with those relationship with your management, the same with the friends. Like it's friends that you have in this business like that are worth their weight in gold. That's why I never take advantage of that, because I know there's a lot of people that aren't like that, so the people that are like that, you really gotta, appreciate that.
Well, it's also like you're a good guy, so I appreciate having you around. And that's the other thing I tell people: just be good to people, so they'll want you around. Don't be some don't be mean, and try to be personable. If you get in a green room, have a conversation. Don't be all like in the corner, closed up and whatever. Like, just be personable, and then people will, because we're all in the same field. We're all in the same world, so we can relate. So it's fun to have you around. So when you hit me up, you're like, hey, can I come do a guest spot? Sure, come on down. We hang out, we talk a little bit, catch up. You do your thing. You're professional. You do your spot. You have a good set. I'm happy. Everyone's happy. Another 10 minutes on the show isn't going to kill the show. So there's of course. I like having good people around, and it's our workplace, So if I can populate the workplace with fun, cool people, then I will.
I love that. I mean, and then you had me in your movie as well. You know what I mean? So that's on that same wavelength, but to another level. So it's cool. And then you also brought up how you want your show, but you haven't done that yet. But you did have Superior Donuts.
Yeah, so I've been on shows, and that was me being an actor on other people's shows. I want to have my own show where it's coming from my mind and then becoming a show. I've sold a few scripts in the past few years that were based on my life, and they just have never gone to the pilot or series point. But every year, whenever that show doesn't make it, I'm right back to the drawing board going, okay, what's the next show? So I've currently come up with another show that is based on me as a kid. So I'd play my own dad. The kid would be the lead, which I even like even better, because now I'm like a co-star on the show.
Right.
Yeah, and I get to write, and I have stories, and it's based on my life. So I don't know, fingers crossed, man. I'm always pitching and throwing it out. I think it's hopefully a matter of time. I mean, I never give up hope.
No, I was just gonna say, if you keep doing that, eventually one of them is gonna hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
hit the way that you want it to hit. Because I'm sure some of
exactly.
them have hit already. But yeah, no, I dig that. I dig that. So let's back it up a little bit. So then, after Friday after next, was it the Axis of Evil? Is that what?
Yeah, I think Friday. What Friday did for me was so after Friday, really, like I said, I went back to the receptionist job, but then I got a commercial, and that helped because commercials pay well. Then I got some more guest stars, and then I got the movie The Interpreter. Then I got a TV show called Life on a Stick, where I was a series regular. So basically, what started happening was my acting was paying for my comedy because I wasn't making money on the road yet because people were like, well, we don't know you, nobody knows you, blah, blah, blah. And up until then, the best thing I was known for was Friday After Next. So people would see me be like, hey, Moley. Nobody knew Maz, they knew Moley.
Right,
When Axis of Evil came out, people started knowing Maz
right,
instead of knowing
right.
Moley. And the way Axis of Evil came about was Mitzi Shore in I think 99 or 2000. She's Jewish. She was Jewish before she passed away, obviously. And she was watching CNN, and there was the latest uprising between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and there's a conflict. And she goes, I think there's going to be a need for a positive voice for Muslims in the near future. This is before September 11th. So it's almost like she had like an epiphany.
Mm.
And whereas Mitzi, when you're a regular at the Comedy Store, as you know, you call on a Monday and they give you spots throughout the week on the lineup with a bunch of other comedians. Well, once in a while, Mitzi would do like Latino night, Black night, Ladies night. So she wanted to do the Arabian Nights. That was the name of the show she came up with. So she goes, I need more Middle Eastern, right?
Mm.
She goes, I need more Middle Eastern comics. So she had seen Ahmed somewhere and said, okay, I'm going to make him a regular. They asked me, Duncan Trussell was the booker at that point. He goes, do you know any other comedians from Middle Eastern background? I was like, well, there's a guy named Aaron Cater. I think his dad's Palestinian. I didn't even know Aaron yet. I just seen him once at the Haha. I called up my friend Sam Tripoli, who was at that point, Sam was trying to be a regular. He showcased for her, and she hadn't passed him. And I said, do you have any Middle Eastern in you? Because the last name Tripoli, I know that Libya, the capital of Libya is Tripoli. He goes, well, my mom's Armenian. I go, I think that'll be good. That's good enough. So that helped Sam become a regular. And
Oh, so
so,
he got in on that?
yeah, he got in on
Hilarious.
the Armenian card because he'd showcased for her, and she had said no thanks. She'd said no. And then once they found out he's Armenian and they needed one, you're in.
Yes, right.
So basically, she put together the Arabian Nights, and at that point, anyone who was brown that wasn't African American or Mexican was on the show. So we had like an Indian guy, we had a white girl who knew how to belly dance, we had this and that. So it was called the Arabian Nights, and we do the shows. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Iranians are not Arabs, and they're very sensitive to it. They're always like, we're not Arabs. Why do you guys call us Arabs? Whatever. So we do the show, and the Iranians that would come to the show afterwards would come up and be like, we had a great time at the show, but by the way, Iranians aren't Arabs. And I was like, I know. She called it Arabian Nights. That's what it is. So we did the Arabian Nights for a while. Eventually, Ahmed, Aaron, and I kind of realized that we're the heart of it because we were actually from those backgrounds. And I don't know who threw out the name, but someone said, hey, you're the Axis of Evil comedy, because that's after George Bush had said Iran, North Korea, and Iraq created an Axis of Evil. So we were trying to make fun of that title. And whoever said it, we were like, oh, that's a good name. So eventually me, Ahmed, and Aaron decided to call it the Axis of Evil Comedy Tour. And what had happened was Ahmed had gone out to DC and done a guest spot at the DC Improv, and he convinced them to give us like a Tuesday night or something with a door deal. And we went out there, and there was an audience for us because this is now after September 11th. We're getting a lot of press because people are like, who are these Middle Easterners or Muslims doing jokes? Who are they? So people were really interested. And we do the show at the DC Improv, sell it out on a Tuesday. We go, let us come back. We come back. We do, another few months later, we do like Tuesday, Wednesday. We're doing great. And we say to them, give us a weekend. And they even said, well, you guys aren't quite headliners yet. We don't know. And we're like, you know what? Then screw you guys. We don't need you. So that's when I was on that TV show and I had some money. So I told the guys, I go, guys, I'll put the money up. We're partners on this. Let's go get a theater and let's just do a theater show. And we got a
Mm.
theater called the Lisner Auditorium, which I think is at George Washington University or one of those American University or something. 1,400 seats, Lisner Auditorium. We're producing it ourselves. We're bringing on some of our friends from New York, Dino Bidala, Mason Zayed, a rapper. I think Narcy was on there, the rapper. And we sold it out, 1,400 seats. And our people are notorious for buying tickets late. So the Monday of the show was Friday. Monday of the show, we had 700 tickets sold out of 1,400. We're freaking out. We're like, oh my God, we're going to lose money.
Right.
Friday, people are calling us. I need tickets. 1,400. All of us made good money that night. We're like, oh, this is it. And then word got back because none of us had like full-on managers that saw this. Like they didn't see this vision of this tour. And so word got back to our managers and agents that these guys are booking themselves, selling out a theater in DC. Then we went to San Francisco where I'd grown up. So we all sold out over there. And so then we're like, oh, let's just keep going. And eventually we filmed it as a Comedy Central special and it came out on Comedy Central. And then that just helped elevate us. And when that came out in 2007, that I think put all of us on the map. And it was interesting, Kareem, because that's around the same time YouTube was really starting to take off. So I remember back then what they would do is somebody would get a clip that they liked and they would take the YouTube link, put it in an email and email it to everyone in their email lists. So somehow I was on like several people's email lists and unbeknownst that, you know, I don't know if they knew that they'd included me, but one of my clips was just going in circles and I kept seeing it. I'm like, oh my God, this is taking off. And that really helped us take off. And that's when Molly became Maz.
Right. No, that's a great story. Cause that's when I remember, I feel like that was the time when I was like, okay, yeah, Maz has launched. You know what I mean? But listening to you describe it though, like you were prepared for this. Like that's why you moved so fast, is because you had the foundation laid, you know what I mean? And it seems like you took all the perfect steps, like that email marketing early and like fronting the tour. Like, man, like this is shit I gotta go do now.
Listen, man, I've had this discussion with a lot of people. I talked to Sebastian about this before Sebastian blew up. Like we were, because we all knew Sebastian was one of the funniest dudes in our crew, but he was having difficulty selling tickets. And I was talking to him. I go, look, man, you got to either find a way to get to the Italian community, or I said, because a lot of his material was about dating. I said, why don't you talk to the management? Because we had the same management. So why don't you talk to the management and see if they can reach out to like Cupid.com or whoever it is, one of these dating services, and get them to promote your comedy shows for couples, like a discount for couples, because a lot of his material was relate to that. And so I was trying to help him figure that out. Now, his tipping point came because from what I've heard from him say was when he had his special and Comedy Central wanted it and Showtime wanted it, and they were smart enough to go to Showtime and go, we'll give it to you, but you have to run it on your 8 p.m. primetime slot, whatever, 10 times or whatever it was. So that brought a lot of eyeballs. Boom. So that's brilliant move. So similarly, I was talking to Kyle Dunnigan one time and he was like, I don't know how to find my audience. And I was like, well, you know, you do really funny, silly stuff. And like, maybe there's a younger college audience for that. And we were just talking about that stuff. And again, Kyle Dunnigan, he blew up from his Instagram. He started doing these characters on Instagram. And so you don't know exactly what it's going to be, but if you're trying to at least get your finger on the pulse of who are your fans, and then once you find those fans, find a way to get your clips to either circulate through those fans or have them pass it out, or you know, be your foot soldiers. You need some super fans to be your foot soldiers, to be like, oh my God, have you seen this guy? And that's kind of the marketing side of it.
That's great. Man, I've been having technical difficulties on some of these episodes, so I think this is the perfect time to wrap this one up, man. You've been great, man. You got anything that you want to plug?
Just everyone can find me at Maz Jobrani across the board, and my podcast is called Back to School with Maz Jobrani. So go ahead and subscribe, and that's it, my brother.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Maz. I really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Bye, Kareem. Thank you.